Well, it's a long story. We started out in Boonville, Missouri. We were the youngest of 7 kids. I have a twin brother that I was in business with. He passed away in July the 25th of last year. We were identical twins. The only problem was he was born on the 30th of July and I was born on the 31st. So every day of the year he was a day older, but one day of the year he was a year older than I was. So I used to call him many, many times on his birthday and wish him happy birthday. We were very close. We've never been apart except in the Korean War. He was drafted a month before I was. I just got married and I had a broken back and I didn't think I'd go in the service. So after he went in the service, I got my draft notice and they just said, you're warm, you're breathing, you're in. So with a broken back, I couldn't go overseas, so I was stationed at Fort Ord, California. But we grew up in a small town, went to a Catholic school for 9.5 years, hated those nuns, absolutely hated them. And my mom, to get even with us, when we moved to California, she invited 2 of them, Sister Joan of Arc and Sister Rosalie, out to California to stay at our house for 3 weeks. And they stayed in our bedroom, and we had to sleep in the garage. And even after that, they were teaching us and commenting and ruling over us when they were on vacation. They were very good teachers, and I blame them on a lot of our success. But we grew up on a farm and in a small town, and I figured up the other day, before we were 16 years old, we had 26 different jobs. Never got fired, but always went on to a better, bigger paying job. And it was quite an education. And we didn't have a father. Our father got killed when we were 4 and left my mom with 7 kids to raise. He was murdered by an ex-partner. And the guy got in such debt, my dad loaned him money, over $1 million on property that he owned. And in those days, they didn't record the deeds, so he just went up there one night and killed him, took the deeds, and then he went to St. Louis and supposedly committed suicide. We don't think that happened, but they became very rich and we became very poor. My mom survived that, didn't ask help from anybody, but it left 7 kids without a father. It was really a tragedy. I asked my 3 sisters not too long ago, one of them just died about 3 weeks ago. I asked them, what was it like for a police officer to come to the house and ask you, tell you that your father was dead? And they said they couldn't describe it. It was that bad, you know, because they were 16, 17 years old at the time. So my mom went back to work and just got the business going again, and then she remarried, and the guy became an alcoholic and stole everything we owned and everything my grandmother owned. And so we moved out to California to get away from him. And our brothers and sisters had already moved out here years before that. But we had a fantastic life growing up. Even though the tragedy happened, you adapt to those things, even though they're very hard. But when we moved out to California, we fell in love with the ocean. And before that, in Missouri, we loved being around lakes and swimming pools and rivers. We swam in the Missouri River and dove in lakes. We built our own diving helmet out of an oil can and a tire pump and a hose, a garden hose, and a marble and a spring for a check valve. And we dove in the lakes and rivers and streams back there. And when we got to California, we bought this beautiful, beautiful dive helmet that had weights, lead shoes, a weight belt, and a beautiful 3 ports in it and everything. And my mom came down and says, how come they sold all of this equipment to you for $25? And we said, the guy drowned in it, that's why. So we put a check valve in it and dove all over the breakwater and everything. We got through high school, graduated from high school, and we became lifeguards on the local beaches there. Then we were drafted in the Army in 1950-52. After we got out of the Army, we came back, and there was a guy named Beverly Morgan, and he'd used my surfboard, and he'd married my brother's girlfriend, fiance, while he was in Korea. So I thought, well, with a name like Beverly, he's got to be a sissy. We can go down there and beat him up. The next thing I know, we were in business with him. That's when we bought into the dive and surf shop, and the 3 of us were partners for years. The way we got started in the business, we wanted to enter some kind of business, and we'd been doing a little skin diving and a lot of surfing. So we wanted to get into that type of business. And we were really thinking about going in business with a guy named Dale Velzy, a famous surfer. And then Billy made contact with Bev, and we were invited to buy into the business. We bought the business for $1,800, the inventory actually, and bought Hap Jacobs out. And my first day of sales there was 15 cents. And we lost 10 cents on that sale because it was a 25-cent magazine. And we went to my mom's house the first night after we were in business, and she said, "Do you think this is a pretty good deal? You invested $1,800 and you sold something for 15 cents the first day." And we kind of laughed and thought, well, you know, it'll pick up. And our goal is to get it up to $100 a day. And we thought, all three of us working as lifeguards, working there on a days off, we could get this thing up to $100 a day. It'd be a nice little business. And it was a long time before we reached $100 a day. And nowadays that's nothing. And then it got up to 500, and then it got up to 1,000, then it got up to 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. And so it turned out to be a pretty good deal. Everybody laughed at us terribly. It was probably the worst business you could possibly go into because less than 1% of the people, even today, dive. And we went into the diving and surfing business. And everybody said we were absolutely crazy. But our goal in business was to get into a business that we would have a lot of fun, and that we could dress casual, and that we could test the equipment every day by going out and diving and surfing and make a little money and live close to work. That was one of our things we wanted to do. We didn't want to commute a long distance, and so we always lived within 4 miles of everything. And we've been pretty successful at it. It's been a lot of hard work. Well, we the name of the shop, the original business, and it's still there. It's the oldest, probably the oldest dive shop in the world, originally owned, and it was named Dive and Surf. And our suits were named Thermocline. My partner Bev Morgan wanted to name them Dive and Surf Thermocline wetsuits, and I just hated it because I kind of became the guy that took the money to the bank, that wrote the checks, that ordered stuff, and was the front man in retail sales. I was kind of the bookkeeper, and Bev was the suit department guy, and then he got tired of that. My brother took that over, and then he started repairing regulators, and he got tired of that, and I took that over. And he was a very moody guy. He was a great partner, one of the best partners you could ever have. Handshake guy, no contracts or anything. And they were called Dive and Surf Thermocline wetsuits. And so we'd been doing a little advertising with a guy named Duke Boyd, who helped start OP and Hang 10 and Lightning Bolt and all those different things. And he said, you got to change the name. And we had already decided we have to change the name because Thermocline, nobody knew what it was, and I'd have to explain to him either in a letter or a telephone call what it was. And so one time my brother was down there and they were figuring out some advertising. He said, we got to change the name. He says, what makes your suit so much better than anybody else's? And my brother said, they fit like a glove. And he said, why don't we call it BodyGlove? And so a couple of days later, Duke brought it up, and he had a guy design the hand, and he paid him $35 for it, and we paid Duke $200 for his part of it. And so it was a pretty cheap logo for $200. And we looked it up, and there's a book that comes out and tells the 50 best logos in the United States. That includes golf clubs, tennis shoes, tennis rackets, everything. And we're the only people that are ahead of us in our actual sport of diving and surfing are OP. And we're 35th on the list now. So I think that's pretty good. That includes Nike, Reebok, and all the rest of them. So we're 37th in logos in the United States. We're pretty proud of that. But that's the way it came about. The hand was bought for $200, and everybody has been using it